Mingla. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you again. Burma is a self-sufficient agricultural country which is still the basics of its economy. Because of the trade route passing through China and India, it is quite a wealthy nation. The Indian merchants were the first to travel along the coast and the Irrawaddy River, and naturally the local inhabitants adopted some of their culture. Burma has been one of the first Southeast Asian countries to adopt the Theravada type of Buddhism on a large scale. Traditionally, the country had a tightly centralized form of government. The king was the chief executive, and the country was divided into provinces ruled by governors who in turn appointed hereditary headmen to rule the people. Conflict with the British began when the British expanded their Indian Empire, construing that Burma was just one of the provinces of India. And the first Anglo-Burmese War was fought from 1824 to 1826. The second was fought in 1852. And the third and final Anglo-Burmese War was fought in 1885, and Burma obviously became the British Burma. On 24 February 1824, the colonial British declared war on Burma on the 11th of May 1824 and managed to capture Rangoon, where the British troops, mainly composed of the Indian sepoys, landed in Lower Burma seaports. The Burmese fought bravely but could not match the modern British superior of arms. This is the making of modern Union of Burma or Myanmar. This is the exact location of Burma. The British capturing Rangoon on the 11th May 1824. The Burmese were no match against the superior arms of the British, even though they fought very bravely. This is the last palace of the Burmese king in Mandalay, destroyed by the Allied bombings. During the Second World War, the Japanese have their Upper Burma headquarters in Mandalay in the palace, and naturally the Allies bombed them. By that time, the Second World War has already started, and the Imperial Japanese army soon occupied Burma, and the British showed a clean pair of heels until they reached Simla in India. This is the Buddhist monks taking a tram, because when the British occupied Burma, they modernized it. And this is how the Buddhist monks are taking a tram just by the side The background is the Shirgun Pagoda. All the time, the British thought that Burma was part of the Indian Empire uh, from 1885 until the Second World War in 1938. And in 1938, the British realized that Burma was an entirely new country and is not part uh, of the British Empire. 16 Japanese Burmese nationalists, members of the 30 Comrades, which the Japanese military intelligence recruited and trained to lead Burma Independence Army, better known as BIA, before Japan invasion of the British Burma in 1942. Japanese intelligence officer Colonel Suzuki here is the only person in the Burmese attire. To his left is Aung San, the maker of modern Burma and the father of Daw Aung San Suu Kyi. He is head of the 30 Comrades. The Japanese invasion of Burma took place just only a few days after it had declared war against Great Britain in December 1941. Several Burmese considered that Britain has been an occupying power since 1886, when Burma had become a province of British India and had campaigned for an independent Burma free from any colonial rule. Behind the Japanese army was a ragtag Burmese forces known as BIA, the Burma Independence Army. In fact, on 1st August 1943, Japan did declare Burma to be an independent nation and become a member of the Greater East Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere with Dr. Barbaugh as head of the state. The Burma Independence Army, or BIA, was led by Major General Aung San with a certain level of autonomy and was allowed to administer certain districts by the British, particularly those in the Delta region, and this include authority to issue stamps. This is how the Imperial Japanese Army chasing the retreating British colonial forces. The people of Burma welcoming the Imperial Japanese troops entering Burma, and they thought that they were liberators, Japanese liberators from the British. It was Lieutenant General Renya Mutaguchi, commander of the Japanese 15th Army in Burma. The Imperial Japanese Army occupied Burma with the Shirgun Pagoda at the background. Of course, the Japanese uh, allow the Burmese to issue stamps. And behind the Japanese army came, it was through Burma that the Japanese army, headed by General Yamata, the Tiger of Malaysia, occupied Malaya and Singapore. But the British But the British had already planned to retake Burma. In 1943, the 77th Indian Infantry Brigade under Brigadier Wingate began driving far behind the Japanese lines in the heart of Burma with the help of the non-Myanmar ethnic nationalities. Because non-Myanmar ethnic nationalities were part of the British Army, there were four Karen brigades: the first Karen, the second Karen, the third Karen, and the fourth Karen. And then there were four kitchen states: first kitchen, second kitchen, third kitchen, and fourth kitchen. And there's only one Shan. They were part of the British Army. So they were the one that spearheaded the the offensive. The 3,000 man brigade, nicknamed the Chindit. Chindit is the name which they heard, but actually in Burmese means Chinde. In Burmese meaning the statue of a Burmese mythical lion, which they often see in front of the pagodas and monasteries. So they took this name and became a guerrilla war, sabotaging railway lines and encouraging all the non-Myanmar ethnic resistance groups. In March 1944, the Japanese launched an attack on the British bases in Imphal and Cohiba with the aim of linking with the Nazi forces, but then with the heavy losses, and the tide began to turn, and soon the British occupied the country again. Here, I like to tell you that if the British, if the Japanese were managed to go to conquer this similar, then they will be able to join with the Nazis. And if the Germany Nazis were not stopped by the Allies at El Alamein, then the two forces would join. And in Burma, instead of speaking in English, we may have to say arigato gozaimasu. We may have to speak Japanese. Whole of Asia may have to Japanese. And while the European, on the European part, we may not be able to speak English. Hello, not say good morning, but we say avikets idan. So these are the situation that because of the two main battles, the El Alamein in Europe and the Battle of Simla in Imphal in Burma, it stopped the Axis forces, both the Japanese in Asia and the Nazis in Europe. The British Indian Army began to enter Burma. The British soon retook Burma and the Japanese withdrew. Soon Burma was retaken in 1945. As soon as Burma was retaken, the administration of Burma under the British rule is all British rule. Rangoon administered Myanmar. Particularly from Rangoon, they administered only the Myanmar, while Manlay administers the non-Myanmar ethnic nationalities of all the frontier areas. And Aung San and his delegate went over to Britain, and that is how Russia secretly supported the independence struggle. General Aung San, after the war in 1940, after the World War in 1941, General Aung San met with Clement Richard Attlee, Prime Minister of Great Britain, and General Aung San signing the historic Panglong Agreement at Panglong. Panglong is a small village in southern Shan State where there was a consensus of the ethnic leaders to invite the Myanmar leader, and the Myanmar leader was Aung San. So he signed on behalf of the Myanmar the Panglong Agreement, and the modern Union of Burma was formed. The second Panglong Conference was in 1947 that founded the Union of Burma. But soon after the Union of Burma was founded, Aung San and his delegate, but General Aung San and his cabinet ministers were shot to death on 19 July 1947. So in the assassination, Aung San was the only Myanmar that died, of course, with some of his aide-de-camp, but the rest are all ethnic nationalities. Here's the Shan Sawa, the Karen, Mambakai, so and so. All the ethnic nationality shed their blood for the sake of the Union of Burma. But on 4th January, Great Britain gave independence to the Union of Burma. Actually, the British plan was to give independence only to the Myanmar and not to the non-Myanmar ethnic nationalities. And when the leaders of the ethnic nationality knew, especially Shan, Chin, and Kachin, they initiated the Panglong Conference in southern Shan State on the 12th of February 1947, where they invited a Burmese representative, Aung San, and joined the Burman group, the Myanmar group, to form the Union of Burma as a test case for a decade. Hence, the Union of Burma was founded. But on 19 July, General Aung San and the non-Myanmar ethnic nationalities were having a meeting as how best to govern the newly found Union of Burma. The gunmen entered the chamber and shoot all of them. With the death of General Aung San, the Panglong Agreement became weak, and some of his rivals who gained positions of power, like General Ne Win and his political mentors, the ultra-chauvinist or racial supremacists, deliberately denigrated. And this is the flag of the Union of Burma. This is Myanmar. Myanmar is at the center. Myanmar is at the center. Whether this is Shan, Chin, Kajin, Kachin, Shan, Chin, Kachin, Kajin, and Karenni. So all these represent and the ethnic nationalities. The blue color indicates their closeness and their sincerity towards each other, while this brave red color uh, indicated their bravery. And this is how the Myanmar ethnic groups here, the white area is only the Myanmar are here. Here, all are the non-Myanmar, Shan, Chinkichen, here is of India and China, and these are the so you will know there's a Karen, uh, and then there's a Shan, and there's a Mun, and then the Shan, so, Mukha, there's a Rakhine, there's a Kachin, there's a Chin, so on and so forth. This is the racial composition of Burma. The first prime minister was U. He is the first prime minister. He was known by the horrific name of the Kenu and was a leading British statesman and nationalist politician. He was the first prime minister under the provisions of the 1947 Constitution of the Union of Burma from 4th January to 12th January 1956 and again on 28 February 1957 to 28 October 1958 and finally from 4th April 1960 to 2nd March 1962. U was a gifted politician and a deeply religious man and a remarkable writer. His politics and worldview reflected the values of early nationalist era in which he grew up. U emerged as a leader of student strike in 1936 and together with Aung San and others in the anti-colonial elite who later gained prominent position in the post-independence era. In the aftermath of Aung San's murder, U became the first prime minister of independent Burma in 1958. On several occasions, he withdrew from public life strategically to meditate and thus force a favorable resolution of political struggle. Ethnic insurgency, factionalism over the state role in religious education, and the constitutional amendment to establish Buddhism as Burma's state religion led the General Ne Win's military takeover in 1962. UNU's career eclipse and failed to integrate the ethnic minorities in the national community. His government further deteriorated under the economic pressure despite, or as his critics assert, because of UNU's practice of the state's support for Buddhism. The political crisis escalated when he could not restrain demands by monks to require British Buddhist instruction in public schools and to prohibit the ethnic minorities from offering equivalent religious instructions, which is against the rule. The situation did not remain long, for when the Shan Federal Movement started by Nyang Shui Soba So Shui Tai, which is actually the first president of the Indian of Burma from 1840, aspiring to a loose federation, was seen as a separatist movement. This is how U constructed a stone cave for the monks of the implement the great fifth Buddhist synod. Since Lord Buddha was alive, there were only 4 Buddhist synods. So UNU make this as a fifth Buddhist synod. General Ne Win coup d'etat in 1962 ended the parliamentary democracy and limited the role of Buddhism in modern state. After being ousted by the military in 1962, he remained an opposition leader in exile and the proponent of democracy for Myanmar until his death. And this since 1962, we have been under the heels of the military. That was how Burmese democracy died. Up to this day, how religion was misused in Burma, and with the coming of the military regime, it soon attained its enormous name, Myanmar Military Junta, endeavoring to break the war record of 100 years civil war. Well, this is a story, and I think I, I should close here. Thank you very much.